Hello and welcome to Your Coaching Journey, a podcast for doctors about coaching. Whether you're a coaching doctor, a doctor who is learning to coach, or a doctor who'd like to build coaching into your professional life, then this is the podcast for you.
Hi, I'm Helen Leathers, and with me today is my business partner and podcast co-host, Tom Dillon. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well. Thank you. Very excited to be doing another coach interview.
Yes, because we're also joined with the wonderful Dr. Nikki Paul. Good morning, Nikki.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hi, Nikki.
You're welcome.
Good to see you.
How are you today?
Yeah, really good, thanks.
It's been a long time. I think the last time we saw you was at a conference, wasn't it, last September?
Yes, the Lifestyle Medicine Conference.
Yeah. Good. It was great to meet you in person. As it always is,
because everything had been on Zoom until then.
Yeah.
So, it's lovely to actually make contact with people in real life.
Have hugs and everything. So for our listeners, let me just introduce Nikki. Nikki is a mum, a doctor, and a widow. And her mission is to help widowed mums process their grief and learn to love their life. Her company, The Grief Coach, supports widows through grief coaching whilst educating the public about the realities of grief. So thank you so much for joining us today, Nikki. And it sounds like you have such a passion for the work that you do.
Yes, definitely. It's it's kind of been created from coming on the course and learning to coach, but it's really developed into something that I see as a mission now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, when you joined our coaching program, Nikki, you were a paediatrician, but you weren't a coach at the time. So what drew you to coaching to add to your professional portfolio?
Yeah, so I think it was just I was looking for another challenge, really. And when I came to the course, I just thought it was something that I would use in my everyday job as a paediatrician. It wasn't something that I thought I would fall in love with and just want to continue doing. But I did really. I found coaching such an empowering tool that I just wanted to do more of it. And I guess as you mentioned, I was widowed, and at that stage I was probably around 4 years after having been widowed, I'd kind of fallen into the traps of keeping busy and staying strong and not really allowing myself time to process my grief. And as part of learning to coach, you experience being coached yourself. And it was quite simply transformational for me. And although I know that's in the title of the diploma, it was still a surprise. But yeah, having that safe space to, think about my values and what I really wanted from life now that it had all changed and my husband had died was exactly what I needed. And I just remember thinking that if only I'd come across that earlier on in my journey with grief. And so I set about trying to provide that service. So I undertook some formal training doing the grief recovery method. And I felt really strongly about my mission and my desire to sort of do grief coaching.
Yes, I remember when you came to the coaching program and we had a conversation about whether you wanted to discuss being a widow and the death of your husband. And I know it was an emotional thing to talk through at the time, but it sounds as if that experience of having the space to talk and having some coaching really helped at the time.
Yeah, so it was really helpful on a personal level, and I think it is important in learning to coach to be honest and for those coaching conversations to come from an honest place, and so it wasn't anything that I felt I could or wanted to hide. But yeah, I was at a stage with my grief where it brought up a lot of emotions. And as you know, I was actually having therapy at the same time because I thought it was likely to bring up a lot of things. And so that was the way I approached it.
Lovely. And just thinking about that, because we have a lot of doctors that go through our course that have reservations about coaching and therapy and where that boundary is for them. But it sounds, you said that maybe if you'd had coaching a little bit earlier, it might have really helped. So where do you see that boundary in terms of specifically around grief?
Yeah, so I think it's a really tricky one, and as I'm sure you're aware, everyone's journey with grief is so different. And I actually had sought counselling twice before, and it's one of those things where it's difficult to know how things would have been if I hadn't had it. So was it helpful? Was it, it certainly didn't get me to the places that coaching has. It was more of an opportunity to download rather than to actively think about the future and what I wanted in my life. So I think I got very different things from the two modalities.
Yeah, and like I said, we can't ever know whether if you had the coaching sooner, what impact that would have had. But certainly I've talked to the doctors that ask about it, and I think it's a great follow-on to having therapy. I think there's definitely that need for, as you say, downloading and having that space to talk things through. But certainly my experience of grief when my mum died was that actually if I'd had coaching at the end of that counselling, that would have been fantastic. But I didn't know anything about coaching at the time, so
yeah. Exactly. And I didn't know anything about coaching when I was first widowed, and I wish I had, and that's what I'm trying to do, to spread the message and provide that service.
Yeah, and I think it's a great message to be getting out there for anyone that needs that support.
I'm aware of the grief recovery method, and I know a few people that have been through it. I know some people who are trainers as well in the program, and you've obviously got that training that you can bring to your clients and your coaching training. So I'm just wondering, of all the tools that you have in your toolbox, what would be your favourite tool to use with clients?
So I definitely love the River of Life. I think it's a really powerful tool to use to kind of tell your story. And in grief, it's really important to be able to tell your story and to make sense of it, really, and to process it and to be understood. So the River of Life allows that kind of structure to do that. And then, you can go on to reflect on what you've been through and how far you've come and what people have learnt from it. But yeah, I really like using that, and I think it's a great way to build trust into the relationship quite quickly as well, which is clearly really important with grief coaching.
Yeah, very important.
Certainly something we experience in our training is using the River of Life really helps people to have an appreciation of the journeys that other people have come on. So I think as a coach, if you can sit and listen to someone's journey, it does just give you an awareness, doesn't it, that you wouldn't have otherwise. Yeah.
And I think because in part of the getting my hours up and practicing, I did a lot of coaching, I'd say probably medic mums, and it was fascinating to me and quite therapeutic, just to realise that, by this stage of life, everyone has a story to tell and everyone has significant events and things that they've been through. And, it's not really evident from the outside, is it? And I think it just reminded me really of the importance of compassion, and we never really know what other people have been through.
No. Lovely. So thinking about your approach to coaching, and obviously you're coaching around a specific area, what would you say of all the approaches that you were given to think about on the coaching diploma, where would you say you landed? What's your approach now?
Well, I mean, it has to be really person-centered, really. I mean, it always depends on the scenario and the person you're coaching, of course. But yeah, it's very person-centered.
And we do ask all our interviewees this question. If you had to pick one question, what would be your favourite question to ask a coachee right now?
So my favourite question is actually one of Tom's that comes from Tom's code. It's a great question. It's what do you know now that you didn't know at the start of our session? I think that's great. It asks the client to kind of reflect on what's been covered at that session, and yeah, sometimes they come up with things that weren't necessarily what you were thinking, but I think it's a really empowering question for them to realise that they're the ones in control, they're the ones that are taking something from this. And so that's definitely my favourite.
Yeah, and we never know what the coach is actually thinking as they talk through their situation, and we take them through that coaching conversation. We know what the words are coming out of the mouth, but we don't know what's going on in their head, do we? I was doing a session last week just as part of the coaching program. I was doing an empty chair exercise, and I guess I did sort of have an idea in my head of where it was going to end up. Not that I wanted it to end up there, but I just thought, okay, well, we're going through this. We're hearing two different parts of you here. I think you're probably going to end up here. But actually, she ended up in completely the opposite place. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So, yeah, it's definitely asking about the thinking at the end is a really valuable question to ask, isn't it? Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. You're obviously busy. We've got small people in the house to look after. You've got your business. What are your hobbies and interests that you like to do outside of work and coaching?
Yeah, no, you're right. Life is pretty busy, but I guess my sort of utmost priority is the kids, and so yeah, I'm mum to 3 fantastic kids who are all very sporty. So I'm often on the sidelines watching them play. We're lucky enough to live in the country, so like getting outside into nature. Though it's raining today, so maybe not. But yeah, we have a family dog who is pretty crazy, called Bear, and she actually looks a bit like a bear. So we'll often.
Oh, what breed is she?
She's an Australian Labradoodle. So yeah, just very, very fluffy. So we'll often be out in the woods walking her. I'm currently training to do the 3 Peaks Challenge. I don't know if you've heard of that. So supposed to be doing that in June with a group.
You are doing that in June.
The supposed is to do with an injury that I have picked up, but even if I am not physically walking it, I will be there to support. So yes, we will be doing that in June to raise money for our local primary school. So that's lovely. And I have a fantastic boyfriend who's now sort of part of our family, and he sails. So recently we've all been taking up sailing and getting into sailing. So that's another new challenge for us. But although we talk about sort of all these kind of things that I like to do and keep busy, I'm a massive believer in slowing down and trying to be sort of, truly present. So I'm a fan of well-being, and so practice mindfulness, and I'm someone who actually meditates every day, and I have a regular yoga practice, and I also love practicing gratitude as well. So all of those things that allow me to then do the other things that are important in my life.
Lovely.
Sounds like you have lots of time to replenish and fill yourself up so that you feel well resourced.
Yeah, I definitely try to make time, because actually I think if we don't look after ourselves, then we can't be there for the others in our life that need us. So that's definitely an intention, probably not always achieved, but yeah, definitely trying.
Lovely. And in terms of your coaching, how are you managing to fit that into your busy life?
Yeah, so I am currently working as a paediatrician just 2 days a week in the NHS. And so I then have time in the rest of the week on top of all of those other things that, I've said I enjoy doing. And actually, it's one of those things that can fit really nicely around school hours. So it works really well for me, the flexibility to work from home and do something that I'm passionate about and love.
It does sound as if it's a great complement to the life that you have to have coaching in there.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just, and it's also just been amazing to do something different, and coaching and sort of the marketing side of things is very different to being a paediatrician in the NHS. And so it's also lovely just to explore new challenges.
Fabulous. Finally, what would you say to any doctors who are thinking of adding coaching into their professional development plan?
Oh, I think that's an easy one for me. I would say definitely do it. You won't regret it. Whether or not you want to start coaching as a business, whether or not you want to do it as alongside your professional role, whether or not you just want to incorporate it into your work, you will do all of those things, but also it will just come into how you kind of interact with people on an everyday level. So it's beneficial for everybody. I highly recommend it.
Oh, lovely. It sounds like you've had it's been really a part of your journey for you as well as for your work. And it's lovely to hear.
Yeah, no, and thank you, because it all started by coming across your course. So thank you.
No, it's great for us to hear how people are. And many of the coaches that we've trained are going in very different directions. And this is something that none of our other coaches have said that they're involved in this area. So it's great that you are managing to use your coaching in an area that you're really passionate about and really want to support others with. So yeah, congratulations to you on making that part of your journey.
Yeah, wonderful.
No, thank you, because it's been down to you guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you for joining us today as well. It's been an absolute pleasure to see you.
Yeah, it's been lovely to catch up with you guys.
Next time on the podcast, we will be hosting another question and answer session. So if you have any questions for us that you would like answering around coaching, do send those in to us and we'll be sure to answer them. If you want to keep it anonymous, that's fine. But if you want to share your name as well, we're happy to feature you on our podcast. So we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikki. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.